Good Wednesday afternoon to you. It's 4 o'clock in time for Sports4CLE. Thanks for joining us. Hope you're having a good afternoon. Browns back on the practice field out in Berea. One of the guys that was not out on the practice field, Deshaun Watson, he did not return to practice. Joel Bitonio was back on the practice field. You see some other guys, Harrison Bryant, Kareem Hunt, Anthony Walker, not practicing. Myles Garrett, Tomlinson, and Amari Cooper getting some rest, and Dustin Hopkins not outside on the early part of things, but nothing terribly to be concerned with there. Deshaun Watson met with the media for the first time since his injury, gave some more clarity about what he's been dealing with in his throwing shoulder.
It's a strain. So strain is it's a micro tear, so it's like small. It's basically like getting a cut on the hand, like a couple of slashes on the hand of that muscle, and that's what a micro tear strain for the rotator cuff is.
Micro tear, you're saying.
Yeah.
Deshaun, injuries are going to happen, but this is another stoppage for you, another layoff for you. How frustrating is that?
I mean, it's definitely frustrating. You know, I want to be on the field. You know, we felt like, you know, after the Tennessee game, we were getting the ground running for this offense, and then, you know, as all three phases. But you know, it's part of the game. You know, it comes with it. You know, I got to deal with the adversity and just take it as it comes, but continue to be a leader as I am, and keep helping the guys around me. And when that time comes, I can step on the field and go out there and help the team win. Rotator cuff is a difficult thing with, you know, throwing a ball, then, you know, doing, you know, just the movement and rotation and mobility stuff. So just really just trying to clean up any lingering pain and any lingering, you know, stuff that's, you know, in that rotator cuff.
And again, not ruled out for the Colts game day to day, so we'll see. Let's welcome in Tim Bielik from the Plain Dealer, cleveland.com. And Tim, quarterbacks don't usually have those issues with rotator cuffs. Pitchers do, but a rotator cuff strain is, you know, it hurts. I've had them. I was a college pitcher. It doesn't feel good, and you don't understand why I'm trying to throw the ball and it's not going the way it's supposed to.
Yeah, I mean, you have to imagine how tough football players are. It takes, you know, significant injuries or injuries to a very specific part of the body to affect how their availability. And I think that's what you're seeing with Deshaun Watson basically coming out and confirming, you know, it's a rotator cuff strain. And, you know, players certainly have strains, but it's different when it directly affects your ability to play as it does with Watson and his ability to throw the football. That's why obviously he hasn't been out these last 2 games. And until that gets cleared up, like you said, you know, you're not going to put him out there, and it's not going to be as effective till that's healed up. I mean, the question is just, you know, how long is that going to take? And, you know, it's been 3 weeks since he has been on the field. Since week 3 against the Titans. I mean, we'll obviously know by Friday, I would assume, potentially, you know, when the injury report comes out, if he goes or if he doesn't, we'll know more if he practices. I think that's going to be the important thing. But, you know, getting clarity on it, I think, is important. And now I think everybody kind of knows, you know, what he's working through, that, you know, it has direct impact on what he does. And clear as day until that gets right, you know, probably best to just kind of let him heal up.
Yeah, and again, it's a touchy thing. We've heard, you know, 2 to 6 weeks. You'd be right at about 4 come Sunday, so we'll see. Hopefully it gets cleared up sooner rather than later. This from CBS Sports. One thing we learned about each team in Week 6 of the NFL season: for the Browns, defense is as historic as the Dolphins' offense. They're allowing 3.82 yards per play, best since 2008. That was the Steelers, who also won the Super Bowl that year. Defense is allowing fewest plays, yards, points, and time of possession per drive. Browns defense might not only be the best in the NFL, but one of the best ever. And again, the defense has been great. Let's see if they can keep it up. I always hesitate in week 5 or 6. Everybody wants to say the best ever. Let's let it go a little bit further into the season.
Yeah, I think, you know, more consistency, more sustainability, I think, is kind of what you're looking for out of this defense. But what we've seen through 5 games, for the Browns, I mean, outside of, you know, the second quarter, I think against the Ravens, you know, a couple plays here and there against the Steelers, they've been nothing short of dominant. And that's so hard to do in the NFL when everything is catered towards, you know, the rules are catered towards the offense, trying to put points on the board. And, the Browns, they've gone up against, Lamar Jackson and Brock Purdy, two very good quarterbacks, Joe Burrow in week 1, although he's, it's taken him a few ways to get back to where I think he's supposed to be coming off that calf issue. But, it goes to show you just how well they played, that they've been able to frustrate basically everybody they've gone against. I mean, I'm even going to write about it tomorrow morning when my quarterback power rankings come out, that, this defense did what no team has done, outside of the Eagles when they hurt Brock Purdy's elbow, is they made Brock Purdy look human. And it's incredible. Just, you watch that game the Niners played a week ago against the Cowboys. He just looked unflappable. He looked perfect out there. And then you put him against the Browns, and all of a sudden the Browns are creating pressure. They're muddying everything up. And Purdy just doesn't look like the same Brock Purdy that had been so dominant and so impressive for the 49ers. So, I mean, it's just a credit to this defense and what they've been able to do so far. The real test now is going to be how well they sustain it, knowing that teams are going to get hyped up to play against this defense going forward.
Yeah, the good news is next 2 quarterbacks are Gardner Minshew and Geno Smith. Not exactly what they faced earlier. Pat McAfee and J.J. Watt. J.J. Watt knows a little bit about defense. They talked about what they view the difference in this Browns defense is this season.
Well, what Schwartz has been doing is fantastic. They have the weapons, obviously, to be great. They're taking on a legend this weekend in Gardner Minshew. But why is this Cleveland Browns defense so dominant? And what are we maybe not hitting or talking about over there, you think?
I mean, they've had players. Like, they've been a very good defense, and they've had the players to be a good defense. I think it's all been unlocked with Schwartz. I mean, Schwartz is all about attacking. He's all about letting these guys play. He's all about just letting these dogs on the edges go eat. And I think that's what's so good, is that these guys are just flying around, dominating people. And that just kind of breeds this culture of even more success on the defensive side, because as you dominate teams, you get a little bit more confidence. Everybody around you gets more confidence, and then it just snowballs into this thing. I mean, they are out here crushing people. We all know the Niners' offense is one of the most dominant offenses in the game. They can beat you with 4, 5, 6 different guys at any time. But the Browns took away basically all of it, and they went out there and they won that game almost by themselves on the defensive side of the ball. So it's pretty incredible what they do.
And again, J.J. Watt's a guy that knows a little bit about how defensive players think.
Yeah, and I mean, he brings up a great point in Jim Schwartz, just how impactful he's been. I've said before that I feel like he's the right guy for the personnel they have, that they have a lot of guys who like to play downhill football. And Jim Schwartz is a guy who loves to play downhill football as much as any defensive coordinator out there. And you see the impact he's made, not just in the players that they've been able to bring in, to help out his defense, but just in the way he's turned those guys loose. I mean, right now, Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah and Grant Delpit look like Pro Bowlers. There look like there's at least 3 Pro Bowlers on this defense, possibly 4, depending, if Martin Emerson continues to go on the track he's going on. But that influence is so vital, and just the presence he's brought to this defense, this attack-minded mentality, the way they're having fun out there, they're dancing and celebrating after big plays, the Jim Schwartz kind of mandates they do. It's brought a little attitude to the defense. And we talked about this last season, that I felt like, the defense needed a little more attitude and, a more aggressive mentality than what they'd shown in the past couple of years. And Jim Schwartz that's absolutely what he's brought to this defense.
Yeah, and you mentioned Martin Emerson. Emerson today talked about Jim Schwartz and the changes he made to that defense.
As soon as he got the job, and I just watched the interview, I knew the culture was going to be different, and it was going to be a shock, to some players. He wants his players to be uncomfortable. He want to put you in the hardest position, during practice. So when Sunday comes, it's more like routine. It's easy, and we are very blessed, to have him at a DC, come in and set the standard and just bring the best out of his players, and just bring everybody along to what his standard is.
Did you know everybody in the locker room would embrace that style?
I mean, we all here, we all here for the same goal, and that's to win, so everybody should embrace that style, and everybody have.
And it's really interesting to hear the defensive players talk about the differences.
Yeah, I mean, that approach, that Jim Schwartz mentality, that's something I think, that we've kind of, expected, when the Browns hired him. I mean, he's kind of more of an old school type of, as far personality, as far as, trying to motivate his players, trying to get them fired up, and they've responded. I mean, you look at the things they've done, barely allowing 1,000 yards of total offense over 5 weeks, something that hadn't been done in almost 50 years. That's absolutely remarkable in the way they've done it with just relentless pressure, with the corners playing as well as they are, linebackers and safeties flying all around the field. These guys have responded to Jim Schwartz extremely well. And I mean, it's easy to do that, especially when you're having the kind of performances like they've shown, like they did against the Bengals, like they did against the Titans, and obviously most recently what they were able to do to the 49ers. When you have results, it's much easier to, believe in your defensive coordinator. And what he's done has absolutely worked, and these players have also played really well. So it's kind of been a perfect storm of the coach coaching the way he has and the players really responding at a high level.
The other thing that happened today, Dustin Hopkins was named AFC Special Team Player of the Week. You see, 4 of 5 from field goals. Made his extra point attempt, 13 points, had the 29-yard game-winning field goal. He got overshadowed a little bit because the defense was so dominant, and you look at him like, okay, yeah, I see why he was AFC special. I was a little surprised when I saw that this afternoon, and it's like, yeah, okay, I get it.
Yeah, I mean, that's what you traded 2025 7th-round pick for, to get a player, who can have this impact. I mean, he's been better. I think most of us thought he would. I mean, even, Mary Kay Cabot was talking a little, kind of after the trade to get Dustin Hopkins before about, how he struggles from 50 and out, and basically it's been a coin flip, and Hopkins has pretty much knocked them through by and large most of the season, including that everybody talks about the 29-yarder they had to win the game. That doesn't happen if Dustin Hopkins, the drive before, doesn't hit the 50-yarder into the dog pound end. And we saw just the kind of havoc the win caused, on that last field goal attempt by Jake Moody in the final seconds that sailed just wide right. I think it was, I'm trying to remember where exactly it was the weather metrics that said the wind was the biggest reason it went wide right, that if there was no wind, it basically goes down the middle. We all know how crazy it is, how hard it is for kickers to kick in at that dog pound end of the field. For Hopkins kick that 50-yarder, that tells me a little something. He's been showing a little more leg strength than I think we all anticipated, and just a great move by Andrew Berry to get rid of that question mark at kicker, and he's done a great job.
Tim Bielik from the Plain Dealer, cleveland.com, and I are going to step aside, take a quick time out. We head to the voicemail of Truth and Reason when we return. Sports for CLE. We'll be right back. Stay with us. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program recognizes role model students and teachers from across Ohio. Nominations can now be done completely online. To nominate a deserving teacher or student, go to ohiolottery.com. In the About section, find Partners in Education. There you will find links to the nomination forms. Students, kindergarten through 12th grade, can be academic all-stars. Teachers can be honored as a Teacher of the Month. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education, where stars shine. We continue talking Browns with Tim Bielik from the Plain Dealer and cleveland.com. Let's head to the voicemail of Truth and Reason.
Hey, everyone. If you look at the 5 teams we've played against, those were some of the best defenses in the league, not counting our own number 1 defense. Can you provide some stats and rankings of the 5 defenses we've played against? They all might be top 10. And to come out with a 3-2 record while having all those injuries, including the quarterback position, that's quite a feat. We'll take it. Just a great job by the team and the coaching staff so far. The Bengals and Ravens have the 2 most difficult strength of schedules left, so there's plenty of ground to be made up. It's go time. And let's go Browns.
As always, appreciate all of the voicemail. So take a look at this chart. This will show you kind of the tiers for the defenses. You want to be, the defense is the y-axis, so it's up and down. And it's defensive EPA. Browns are far and away the best. You see the Ravens and the 49ers are pretty good. The Bengals, right around average. The Steelers, a little bit above average. If you go by yardage, Browns are 1, 49ers and Ravens are 2 and 3. Steelers are down near the bottom of yards allowed defensively, and the Bengals are kind of in the middle. Titans, the other team that I kind of blew through there, also towards the bottom of the pack in EPA. They're kind of in the middle third if you look at it. But to his point, They've played some really good defenses, and they're 3-2. And Tim, the other thing that I'm sure we'll touch on a little bit later, they have not won they have lost. Not only have they not won, they've lost the turnover battle in every game. They're a league worst -8, and somehow they're 3-2.
That's just how great the defense has been, that they've given the ball away. You know, they've had this negative turnover differential in every single game this season, and it's really only come back to bite them twice because, you know, even though they've lost the turnover differential every game, the defense has found a way to stiffen up and not let the other offense take advantage of those. You know, in every game outside of the Steelers game, in which they took 2 of those turnovers back for touchdowns, and then against Baltimore, that first interception that DTR threw to Brandon Stevens, the Lamar Jackson turned right around the next play, scored a 10-yard touchdown. That's basically been it. So, I mean, this defense has done an amazing job, you know, when their number's been called, you know, earlier than they would have expected, you know, because of an offensive turnover or whatever, that they've been able to just turn right around and more often than not just keep the other team from, at the bare minimum, keeping them out of the end zone, if not keeping them off the scoreboard entirely. And that's just another thing that's made this defense so special. Can't expect that to continue, but you also don't expect, especially when Deshaun Watson comes back, that the turnovers will continue. You would imagine at some point those things will start to kind of go away as time kind of goes on.
Yeah, and this defense is playing so well, you expect the defense to start getting more of them. They usually come in bunches. I know you wrote an article about this. Fact or fiction, is Jim Schwartz the most important assistant coach in football?
That's fact right now. I mean, it's pretty easy to say because, I mean, right now, as we talked about a little bit, this defense so far through 5 games at an all-time level. I mean, you know, 1,002 yards allowed, the 3rd fewest allowed by any team for the first 5 games since 1970. That's from the NFL. That only the 71 Colts and the 1970 Vikings have allowed fewer. And to do that in an era where offense is better than it's ever been, where the quarterback play is better than it's ever been, it's simply remarkable. I meant, you know, talking again about Brock Purdy, how they made him look uncomfortable for the first time pretty much his entire NFL career. They made him look human. They pressured him in a way that no one really has been able to do. And I think you can't say enough just the kind of impact Jim Schwartz has had, taking a defense that a year ago had communication breakdowns that just looked like they just had a scheme that didn't quite fit the players, and in 1 year they turned it around and looked elite. I mean, to me, there's no contest as far as, you know, who you would put at number 1, that there's a very strong case for Jim Schwartz. The only ones I would even you could even make a case for in my mind are Ben Johnson, the offensive coordinator with the Detroit Lions, and Dan Quinn, who's the DC for the Cowboys. That's basically his only competition right now. Those 3 guys are in a class by themselves, and right now Jim Schwartz looks like he's leading the group. So
the other thing that we're going to take a look at, this from ESPN.com, MVP watch. Whose stock is up after 6 weeks? One of the guys they go with, Myles Garrett. Garrett has generated wins on 28.8% of his pass rush snaps, 5.5 sacks, 28 total pressures. The race for the top defensive players starting to heat up. And they say Garrett, T.J. Watt, Micah Parsons, the leaders so far. And you know what? It's hard to argue with that. And I think Garrett, this could be the year he just keeps getting better and better.
It's looking that way right now. I mean, all the combination of factors are certainly working into play. Jim Schwartz, you know, the impact he's made on Myles Garrett, especially how well he played on Sunday, in particular against Trent Williams. Didn't have a sack against Williams, but, you know, he got multiple pressures and multiple quarterback hurries. I think one play he threw Trent Williams aside, which you very rarely see from a guy like Trent Williams, who should be a Hall of Fame left tackle. And we've mentioned before, you know, just the help he has. Dalvin Tomlinson had a very good game. Obo Okoronkwo looks like he's been a steal from free agency. He continues to have an impact defensively. Zadarius Smith has played well. I know he hasn't had a sack, but you can tell his impact has been there. And just the presence of so many guys around Myles Garrett, the way they moved him around, it really has been harder for teams to really try and take him away unless you're just throwing really quick passes and trying to find ways to neutralize the defensive line entirely as much as possible, which I would imagine, you know, we might start to see a little more often, that teams just try the quick passing game and not even try to try and take the defensive line completely out of the game or just run right at them.
Tim Bielik from the Plain Dealer, cleveland.com, and I'm going to step aside, take a quick time out, other side of the break, back to the voicemail of Truth and Reason. We'll hear more from Deshaun Watson. Sports for CLE. I'll be right back. Stay with us.
come back to go forward. Back to learning new things. Back to pursuing your dreams. Tri-C has flexible learning options to fit your life. And every year, more than 1,000 local companies provide Tri-C students with real-world learning. The right education can boost your lifetime earning power by hundreds of thousands of dollars. Start now with a college education you can afford. Tri-C, where futures begin.
We continue talking Browns with Tim Bielik from the Plain Dealer, cleveland.com. Let's head back to the voicemail of Truth and Reason.
Hi, this is Rico. I'm getting really fed up with some media members and fans trying their best to discredit Stefanski at every chance they get. How about if you give him his flowers for calling a good game versus 49ers? This entire season has been a roller coaster for him. He's had to endure the erratic play of Watson, and now in back-to-back games, he had to adjust to yet another quarterback. If you look at the entire history of the NFL, the one common denominator that all the great coaches had was a franchise-level QB. Can we please give Stefanski a chance to be a great coach once he has Watson playing at his full potential? Thanks. That's all I wanted to say.
As always, appreciate all of the voicemails. Tim, I think he hit it right on the head. You haven't had Chubb. You lose Joel Bitonio. You didn't have Watson. I thought he called a really good game given the limitations that he had.
Yeah, 100%. The big takeaway from that game to me was, he stuck with the run game. Even when it wasn't quite working as well as you would have expected, you would have hoped it would have. And even against an elite defense, you're not going to run the ball necessarily well, but you got to try. You got to keep trying to run the football, especially with a backup quarterback playing. And then, to their credit, towards the end of the game, they were able to hit some runs. Jerome Ford had some huge runs in the second half, including on that final drive to really get him in position to kick the eventual game-winning field goal from Dustin Hopkins. And I thought that was a very good job by Kevin Stefanski to stick with the run, to be creative, find ways to get that run game going. I when it comes to coaching, I liken them to like great chefs, and a chef in some cases is only as good as the ingredients they have, and the better the ingredients you're going to have, the better the meal you're probably going to have. And obviously, with no Nick Chubb, no Deshaun Watson, you're not necessarily going to you kind of lose some of the better ingredients you have. But he did a great job with what he had, and obviously, like I said, you have better ingredients, you have a better chance to have success. And I think that's why, to me, coaching and players are kind of tied together. I mean, you have coaches that can make, sometimes I just go back to the chef metaphor, they can make great meals with almost anything. But again, the better players you have, the better it typically makes a coach look.
So we heard from Deshaun Watson a little bit earlier just on the rotator cuff strain. Watson also addressed some people in the national media questioning his toughness as well as his availability to play against the Colts on Sunday.
Every week since I've been out, I'm preparing myself to start. I do the same stuff I've been doing each and every week. I don't try to do anything different. A little extra time on the treatment side, but outside of that, I'm always preparing like I'm gonna play. And then Indianapolis presents from I'm used to that team. I know it's a different defensive coordinator, but just playing in Indy is difficult. The crowd's gonna be into it. The defense create turnovers. The defense is very they feed off the energy of that stadium, and it's a great place to play, great environment. So they're led by that linebacker group and up front, and I know they're young in the secondary, but those guys are gonna come and be ready for the challenge. So we got to make sure we're ready. I've never been the type of guy that's been questioned about my toughness, but I guess, whatever they want to put out, then everyone's entitled to their own opinions. As long as this locker room and this organization know who I am and what I'm dealing with, big foe, then that's all that matters. All the outside noise, all the other stuff is just, they're feeding off of what is said on social media, and all that stuff isn't real. So, what is real is in this locker room and on this team, and that's all that matters.
Yeah, and, questioning whether, he's tough, that's ridiculous. The guy he's played NFL games with a collapsed lung before.
Yeah, I mean, I think I've said before, there's a difference between being injured and being injured in a way that directly affects your performance. And I mean, the injury, we talk about the strain in the rotator cuff. If it directly affects the ability to do the most important thing you can do in your job, if you're an athlete, then you're not going to be able to perform at a high level, and thus you should sit until that's ready to go, even if everything else is good. And you know, obviously, the Browns seem like they're erring on the side of caution, which is smart. It's a long season, very winnable games, even with PJ Walker, as the quarterback. This game is winnable, I think, certainly with Walker, even though you're playing a road game against the Colts. Certainly it's more about the long run with Deshaun Watson, and he knows his body well enough where he can tell if he's good to go, and he's just got to manage this the best he can. There's no reason to think he shouldn't be back at some point this season. I don't know if it's 100% Sean, but certainly he's more than capable of playing at a high level. It's just tough considering, the two opponents they've just played that he couldn't go against those guys, against the Ravens and the 49ers with the shoulder issue. We'll just have to see when he comes back, and hopefully when he does for the Browns, we'll see what kind of percentage is if he can get back to where he was against the Titans.
So I know you also wrote an article, 3 things to know about the Colts. So you've got, it's Gardner Minshew's show for now is 1. Number 2, Jonathan Taylor isn't the only Colts running back to worry about. And number 3, the defense for the Colts has not been very good. Take us through those and just the concerns when you line up against the Colts.
Well, right now, obviously, Anthony Richardson obviously ruled out for the rest of the season. He's going to have season-ending surgery. So right now, with Gardner Minshew's show in Indianapolis, it's Minshew Magic has always been kind of a fun thing to follow. And one thing I found that was interesting looking at Minshew's profile is you would think when you have career numbers like 47 touchdowns, 18 career interceptions, you would think he'd have a better career record than 9-17. But then you see, what happened when Minshew started against the Jaguars. Did not look good. 33-55 for 329 yards, a touchdown, 3 interceptions. It seems like whenever he's come into relief of games, he's played very well, but then when he's had to start games, not quite as well. I know, there's the whole thing, Gardner Minshew's Colts beat the Ravens, but you also remember in that game, Matt Gay kicked 4 field goals of at least 53 yards. I mean, that's, even that when you outkick Justin Tucker in a game, that's noteworthy in and of itself. So that's a big thing to watch. Certainly the Browns should be able to get some turnovers off Minshew if, last week's performance is any indication. Number 2, I talked about the running game. Jonathan Taylor's come back the last couple of weeks, kind of been rusty, but in his stead, Zach Moss has been sensational. Almost 500 yards rushing so far, 4 touchdowns. He ran for 122 against the Ravens and 165 against the Titans. 2 run defenses that played very well against the Browns, as we obviously know from early in the season. So Zach Moss is a guy that, Browns will have to keep an eye on when he's in the ball game, at least until Jonathan Taylor gets his feet under him, gets kind of back up to speed. But certainly a very dangerous 1-2 punch. And then number 3, I talked about the defense, the struggles they've had. They came into the season, they came into week 6, 22nd in scoring defense, giving up 23 points per game, 5th worst in pass defense. 260.8 yards a game. Certainly, the game against Jacksonville, they gave up 37 points, but that was largely because of turnovers, because Jacksonville, got the ball in Indianapolis territory twice. They scored 17 points off Colts turnovers. So certainly the yardage was fine, but the points were not. And with the recent news that Grover Stewart, their talented defensive tackle, is suspended for PEDs, he's out for the next 6 games, starting with this one against the Browns. That's a huge blow to that Colts defense.
When you look at it, how do the Browns come away with a win in this one? And, I think the thing is, PJ Walker doesn't have to win the game for you. And you just take care of the football. They haven't done that yet. Take care of the football.
Yeah, this feels like the game would be where you want to really focus on protecting the football and try to get some turnovers off Gardner Minshew. Like I said, 3 interceptions last week against Jacksonville. You would imagine that's going to be a focus as well for Indians to protect the football. But, for the Colts, I mean, this is the best defense they'll probably have seen. I don't know how much Minshew's going to handle this pressure, and with the coverage the Browns can put on the outside on the receivers, particularly Michael Pittman Jr., who's their best guy. I think he's a very good receiver. That's going to be an interesting battle to see if they can turn him over a couple times. And again, something I think is going to be important for this game, carry over what they did. They should try to carry over what they did the last game with the run game, stick with it, give those guys an opportunity, show some trust in them, and let Kareem Hunt and Jerome Ford do their thing, go play action with it. And if PJ Walker's in the game, just have him be smart, trust his playmakers, find ways to get Amari Cooper and David Njoku the ball. They played very well against the 49ers, and just if they can get a lead early and kind of make Gardner Minshew have to beat them, then I think if you're the Browns, you're in a very good position. Now, if Deshaun Watson plays, obviously the calculus is very different. There's more margin for error, but the Browns certainly have different avenues with which to win a game. Like you said, it'll probably just come down to turnovers.
Tim Bielik, plain dealer, cleveland.com. As always, great stuff. Appreciate the time and the insight. Thanks very much, Tim.
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys. Have a good day.
Tim Bielik, make sure you check him out. Always really good stuff with the Plain Dealer and cleveland.com. We're going to step aside, take a timeout. Other side of the break, Lance Reisland with some video analysis of some of the things the Browns kind of tweaked against the 49ers and worked well, both on offense and defense. Sports for CLE. We'll be right back. Stay with us. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program recognizes role model students and teachers from across Ohio. Nominations can now be done completely online. To nominate a deserving teacher or student, go to ohiolottery.com. In the About section, find Partners in Education. There you will find links to the nomination forms. Students kindergarten through 12th grade can be academic all-stars. Teachers can be honored as a Teacher of the Month. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education, where stars shine. We continue talking Browns here on Sports for CLE. Time to take a look, a little video analysis of what Browns did well on offense and defense to get that win against the San Francisco 49ers. Let's welcome in Lance Reisland from the Plain Dealer as well as cleveland.com. Lance, we had talked last week. We thought it would be close, and they did some things that were very interesting both sides of the ball.
Well, I think they did a really good job of using their bye week. So they actually self-scouted themselves. They got themselves ready for this big game. We thought it was going to be close because I think we all agree that their defense is very good. But I got to give Stefanski some credit in terms of how he actually took a little bit of what Todd Monken did against them and used the aggressiveness of the 49ers and did some traps and some wham blocking. They whammed with David Njoku one time. So they did a bunch of really good things. They built off what they had done before early in the season. And again, like we said, that defense is right now, obviously they have to do it for 3 more months and there's a long season, but right now they're historically good. And, the 49ers didn't have all their players. Well, either did the Browns. So, that's kind of how football works. And their ability to play at a high level defensively is pretty impressive.
Let's take a look at some of the clips offensively. This first one is on the Jerome Ford run. What do you see in this clip?
Well, the first thing that earlier in the game, they had run a wham block. So what they're going to do on these traps and whams is just like the Browns defensive line, these 49ers defensive linemen, they just come upfield. And when they get upfield at times, they cause havoc in the backfield. Todd Monken kind of, on those 2 drives against the Browns last week, he kind of did some things that bothered them just because they're so aggressive. So you can actually see the 3 technique, Kinlaw and Bosa down here at the bottom. They're actually going to run upfield, and they're actually going to, Kinlaw actually takes himself out of the play, number 99, and they're going to pull Dunn, and they're going to pull Teller, and they're going to kick Bosa out, and they're going to kick Kinlaw out, and they're actually going to let him come upfield, unblock him, and then trap block him. And this is what they did a really good job of trying to figure out what they could do with limited running. Obviously there's no Nick Chubb, so they're kind of playing to the strengths of what these guys can do, both on the offensive line and with Ford and Chubb. And this was an example. They took the bye week and they figured out some schemes they can run against these 49ers, and it was really impressive.
So P.J. Walker making his first start for the Browns, but has played in the league, and Kevin Stefanski did some things to help him out as well. Take us through what you see in this next clip.
Well, early on in the game, obviously you have a guy who's coming off the practice squad, hasn't been with the team very long. I thought Stefanski did a great job of getting him in rhythm. And one of the ways you do that with the quarterback is some screens, some quick games, some gadget plays. And, this is the old adage, I say it all the time, players over plays. So let's try to make some easy throws for him, get him to Hunt, Chubb, Cooper, the guys in the Njoku, guys who can make plays for you and are consistent. Regardless of what the pass is, this is going to get him in rhythm. This is going to get him some confidence. And they did a really good job of, early on trying to get some screens, trying to get some confidence, trying to get some early completions, try to stay on a 3rd and long, try to keep him out of those, those blitz situations or those situations where he can make a mistake. Because he did make some mistakes. He made some poor throws, but I thought he hung in there. But I thought Stefanski, again, did a really good job of trying to get him going early with some of the easy throws.
Yeah, and again, keep in mind, this is a guy that hadn't been in the system very long. They picked him up end of preseason and got him rolling. First start for the Browns. So another way of getting the ball in the hands of your playmakers in this clip. Tell me what you like about this one.
Well, it's going to be a split zone, so they're really known for, obviously, like I said, Stefanski's run schemes are zone. He runs the gap scheme, pulling people. He runs, pin and pull with his guards. But one thing he does here is that they're going to run a split zone, and then Harrison Bryant, instead of blocking that backside end, he's actually going to go out and around. So you're going to see them leave Bosa. He's going to go out and around. They're going to use Bosa again. They're going to use his aggressiveness against him. And they're going to get outside him with Goodwin. So, again, really just ball handling here. This is a big play, midfield. They take a chance here. They run a little reverse off one of their base run plays. A good way to get Goodwin going. They got to figure out what they're going to do with Goodwin and more. They sign these guys, and they have not been a factor. Now, obviously, not having Deshaun Watson has hurt them, but they got to figure out ways to get these guys in space. And even though Moore hasn't done a lot and Goodwin hasn't done a lot yet, they have tried. They've tried vertical things. They've tried things in the quick game. So they are trying, and they're getting to the point where these guys got to make plays. And this is an example. This is just a split zone reverse, and they get a big play here, in the game where they needed it, and Walker needed it.
So the other thing that we've talked about a little bit is they use the bye week to kind of build things out, and we see that on this touchdown run by Kareem Hunt. Take us through this clip, what you like here.
So this is brilliant for me. So this is a coach's dream. I love this play. So what they do here is there's a number of things. First of all, you don't see it here in the snap, but they come out of the huddle quick with Harrison Bryant at quarterback. So immediately when Walker goes out and Bryant goes into quarterback, there's an alert on the defense. Now the alert for the 49ers were they were taking their big guys, all 4 of their big guys, and they got the AB gap to stop the QB sneak. Then they had the backers walk up kind of on the edges. So they were anticipating QB sneak. Then the Browns hurried to the line, and then they just simply ran outside zone here. But the thing they did is they brought Teller over. So on the left side, they had Teller, Dunn, and they had Wills at the tight end. They also put David Bell, who did a great job of blocking inside, cracking down inside, and then Donovan Peoples-Jones got to Gibson, the safety. Another thing they did is they brought Akins over, and he kicked out Lenore. So again, just a really brilliant concept of this is what we've done when we come out of the huddle. The key to the play is how they came out of the huddle and made the 49ers adjust. And all those big guys got caught inside. There was no one left. And this is really a good play call by Coach Stefanski. Really impressive. Really well blocked by the Browns. And credit to those guys because this is what they had. They knew the 49ers would adjust, and they had their call for the adjustment. Really well done.
So that's a couple of plays on the offensive side of the ball. We're going to look at a few on the defensive side of the ball, and without question, the defense made that offense look very, very ordinary. Take us through this first clip, what we see here.
Well, you're going to see Jordan Elliott. Jordan Elliott, who struggled last year, he's now in a scheme that fits for him because you're going to see him just come A-gap on top of the screen. He's just going to come A-gap, and he just comes really, really hard. Then you can see Myles Garrett up there as well. Myles Garrett just gets upfield, and this is what they do. They just get upfield, they take their gaps, and they're aggressive. And the blue line is the line of scrimmage, and look where that tackle's being made. And I could have given you film from all 5 games. This defense has played well enough to be 5-0. So what you're seeing here is what you see on almost every play. You see the line of scrimmage recreated 3 yards in the backfield, and that messes up blocking schemes, that messes up passing blocking schemes. And the Browns consistently do this. They get upfield and they play with great energy upfield. And that D-line, they're doing a great job right now. All 4 of them, and even the backups. Everybody's doing a great job of recreating that line of scrimmage. And no matter what happens, this is the key to their defense, the ability to recreate the line of scrimmage.
The other thing that we have seen, and we heard about it, and it has played out, positional flexibility. Take us through this clip and what you see here with Martin Emerson.
So it goes into my next point, too, with motion. But what you're going to have here is Martin Emerson's going to be in coverage on IU. And he also played up a line of scrimmage, was on a back one time. You're also going to see Za'Darius Smith at the 3 technique with Obo outside of him and Myles Garrett at the other side. That put Myles Garrett in a one-on-one, those matchups that they like. So Myles Garrett was able to get around the edge and kind of hurry this throw from Purdy. So it was a combination of the secondary, what they did, that second level people ability to do different things, the defensive line ability to do different things. This is why Schwartz has had success, such great success, 9-1 success against Shanahan, is because he doesn't change his identity. He doesn't change what he does. So not only did they make adjustments for the 49ers, but this is their adjustments against this type of movement, against this type of thing. So they're practicing it. They're getting reps, and they're getting good at it. And this is what you're going to see. The Browns defense will play well all year because they practice, they are who they are, and their identity is who they are.
The other thing that we did talk about is they struggled some with a lot of that movement and motion against the Ravens. Take us through what you see on this next clip that kind of counteracts the movement with the Niners.
So if you go back, if you can think, and everybody watching the game, you can remember Greg Newsome having to run all the way across and cover some. So they had some answers. Now, the one thing I like about Coach Schwartz is that he never bumps in motion. He never takes a receiver who's covered by a defensive back and bumps him to a linebacker or safety. So early on, when Ayuk was going in motion or Jennings would go in motion, Newsome would run with. Later on in the game, they would actually bump it because of the flexibility. So Ward actually bumped it to McLeod because they have confidence in McLeod and Delpit and these guys inside to cover, which is great. The other thing they did, which I thought was really, really great, if you see this play, the fullback, Juszczyk, is going to go in motion, and they're going to bump it. So they're going to bump it from McLeod to Delpit. And then he comes back, and then they just bump it back from Delpit to McLeod. But what this does, it allows them not only to cover the back out of the backfield, but it allows them to have their run fits. So everybody is where they should be and what gap they should be if the 49ers were to run the football. So the part that, not everybody sees here is that the fact that they're balanced. They're 4 linebackers. They're just wherever he goes, either McLeod's going to take him, or if he went to the other side, Delpit will take him. And that's that ability at that second level to bump and play different position with different roles. And the Browns are, this motion and stuff doesn't bother them because they're very simple, easy, and they have guys who can do different things.
Lance Reisland, as always, great stuff. Appreciate the time and the insight very much. Thanks very much, Lance.
As always, thanks for having me.
Lance Reisland with the video analysis of what the Browns did well against the 49ers. Always really good stuff. Make sure you check them out, cleveland.com, as well as The Plain Dealer. We're going to step aside, take a quick time out. We continue talking Browns on Sports4CLE. Stay with us.
Come back to go forward. Back to learning new things. Back to pursuing your dreams. Tri-C has flexible learning options to fit your life. And every year, more than 1,000 local companies provide Tri-C students with real-world learning. The right education can boost your lifetime earning power by hundreds of thousands of dollars. Start now with a college education you can afford. Tri-C, where futures begin.
We continue talking Browns on Sports4CLE. Stephen A. Smith on why, in his opinion, Deshaun Watson has been the most disappointing quarterback in the NFL so far this season. This from ESPN's First Take.
This is the reason. There was a time a few years ago before all of his situations really ballooned and got out of control and all of that stuff, self-inflicted, no doubt. We even talk about Patrick Mahomes. And Deshaun.
Yes.
This is before that playoff series against Josh Allen that Patrick Mahomes had.
Yeah.
This is before Joe Burrow burst onto the scene and was getting you to a Super Bowl and then an AFC Championship game. We talk about Deshaun Watson. That's why they gave him $230 million. He started 3 games this year. They're 2-1, 4 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, 63.7% completion percentage. Clearly has not been himself. We let it go last year because he was suspended for the first 13 weeks, first 11 to 12 games or so. And we let it go last year. But we came into the season expecting to see something resembling the Deshaun Watson of old. We have not seen that. We haven't. And as I look at the Cleveland Browns, you picked the Ravens, I picked the Bengals. We've talked about the AFC North. But if Deshaun Watson comes back and resembles anything like what we've seen before his transgressions invaded the news, the airwaves and stuff like that, think about what Cleveland could be.
But
think about what they could be.
But here's the problem: but we've seen nothing that could possibly remind us that that's still in there.
This is why he's my biggest disappointment.
So
that's exactly why he's my biggest disappointment because we haven't seen it.
Let's welcome in Tyler Johnson, Faithful Dogs Podcast Network 216. 2 things. He's hurt. I mean, his throwing shoulder, his rotator cuff on his throwing shoulder is hurt. And I would argue that the last time we saw him on the field against the Titans, we saw some shades of what he was and what the Browns think he will be.
Yeah, Dave, exactly. And the funny thing is about Stephen A. Smith, there are other quarterbacks that are highly paid in the NFL that are struggling. Joe Burrow this year is a prime example. Now, again, he has been playing hurt.
Russell Wilson.
Exactly. Russell Wilson's another one that comes to mind. And, I'm going to say this too. Daniel Jones is another one that comes to mind with the Giants. So, I think it's a case in point that it's very easy that when you say something about Deshaun Watson, it's going to be what gets the clicks. It's going to be the type of content that, of course, it's going to get us Browns fans like us talking about this right now. But yeah, Deshaun Watson's been hurt, and we did see against the Titans, we saw some of that flash of the player we used to see. So you know what? Let Stephen A. talk. It's what he does. It's what he's been good at throughout his entire career. But yeah, I think he's wrong on this one, and I think he's just trying to stir up the Browns fan base, which clearly he has done. That's for sure.
Yeah, I hope he's wrong. Let's hope he is wrong on that one. All right, let's head back to the voicemail of Truth and Reason.
Hi, Dave. Appreciate you taking my call. It's only one receiver that has caught a touchdown pass for the Browns this season. That's Amari Cooper, and also Marquise Cook. He seems to have the vision that you can give him the ball instead of Elijah Moore. I would have him take over that role. And I was wondering about some fresh legs like Austin Watkins coming in, since we only have 1 touchdown by a receiver. That's just a couple of observations. Hopefully I can get some answers. Thanks, Dave. Go Browns.
As always, appreciate all the voicemails. So this is a look at the wide receiver production. The guy way up in the corner, Tyreek Hill, he looks like he's going to lap the field on this one. The orange dots, bottom left corner, Donovan Peoples-Jones and Elijah Moore, that's where you don't want to be. Amari Cooper is kind of in the middle of that bunched-in pack by Amon-Ra St. Brown. He really has been the only productive one. Relative to Austin Watkins, hasn't really done it in the NFL. Michael Woods injured. He's coming back. He's making some progress, but I wouldn't expect him back until next season. It's one of the reasons that some people think the Browns might go out and try to get a wide receiver. I'm not so sure that that they're inclined to do that. They need better production from the wide receivers. I won't argue that point even a little bit. Donovan Peoples-Jones, I haven't even seen him targeted.
Yeah, I think when it comes to the wide receiver room, Michael Woods isn't going to be back till 2024. We've seen videos. Good to see his recovery seems to be going very well. Austin Watkins, if the Browns thought Austin Watkins was going to be a difference maker, I believe he would be on the active roster. Elijah Moore, I think it's a case where it is like we saw against the Titans, Elijah Moore was getting a lot more involved in the passing game, which is what we want to see. P.J. Walker, there were also a lot of times last week that he had Elijah Moore open, wasn't able to give him the ball, and Elijah Moore had a ton of space. So I think Elijah Moore is going to be okay. But then when you look at Goodwin, I do think Marquise Goodwin needs to take the role that the Browns are trying to do with Elijah Moore. We saw it a little bit against San Francisco. Get Marquise Goodwin more up in space. Get him on some of those reverses. Take a couple deep shots. If you can do that, you're going to keep the defense honest. And then Donovan Peoples-Jones, like you said, Dave, I don't really know what's going on, if he's not been a part of the game plan or whatever the case may be. But if that continues, and we know that Donovan Peoples-Jones probably is not going to be back with the Browns next year, I would be very curious to see if Cedric Tillman, coming off his injury, if they look to get him involved a little bit more, because I think Cedric Tillman is going to be, of course, a big part of this offense next year. See what he's got right now, because if Donovan Peoples-Jones is not going to be a factor right now, at least in the pass game, give some of those reps to Cedric Tillman. Let's see what we got in our rookie draft pick. At this point, it can't hurt, because Donovan Peoples-Jones, production-wise, isn't giving you anything. And you have to wonder, is that due to the game plan? Is he not getting open? Whatever the case may be. But yeah, Donovan Peoples-Jones, it's kind of been disappointing, because we've seen him since he's been in Cleveland. He was on a trajectory of progressing every single year. He has not done that this year. So I'm not really sure what's happened with him. But yeah, if that continues, I would look at Cedric Tillman, but I don't think they're going to trade for a wide receiver unless one becomes available that ends up being cheap and they believe can actually make a difference for this offense.
Yeah, and Peoples-Jones has been effective run blocking. I think he has 15 targets so far this year. So it's I'm not sure the reason for that, but that's what he has. All right, let's head back to the voicemail of Truth and Reason.
Hey, love the show. Long-time viewer, long-time listener and caller. You haven't heard DeJuan Jones' name much, which is always a good thing if you're an offensive lineman, correct? So if he continues to play at a high level like he's doing so far this year, what do you think happens when Conklin comes back next year? Do they put Jones back on the bench and let Conklin take over? Or if Jones keeps up this high volume of, high-level play, does he become their starter and maybe they try to move on from Conklin? Just want to hear your thoughts. Go Browns. Go Buckeyes. Woo, woo, woo.
As always, appreciate all the voicemails. Take a look at what DeJuan Jones did against Nick Bosa. And this is one of your tweets, Tyler. 73.5 overall grade, 74.1 run blocking. That's impressive because that's significantly higher than it's been. Pass blocking, pretty good. 1 pressure allowed, 1 sack given up. If he continues like that, I don't think he's going back to the bench. You may view Jack Conklin as somebody you can trade. You may try to put him at. You may see can he play left tackle. DeJuan Jones showing he can play.
Yeah, you have to find a way to keep DeJuan Jones on the field, regardless of what happens with Jack Conklin. And I think the big thing with Conklin, we don't know if he's ever going to be that same player again. He's battled some really horrific injuries throughout his career. And I don't criticize Andrew Berry often, but I think one of the biggest mistakes was not extending Jack Conklin, but I think for the amount of money they gave him and also for how long they signed him for. I mean, he signed through 2026. And DeJuan Jones is your future right tackle. I've seen some people say, do you consider moving him to left? Maybe they do that this coming offseason, experiment with it a little bit more. But we're going to have to see how that unfolds. But I don't think you can rely on Jack Conklin moving forward. And then the hard part becomes, Dave, trading Jack Conklin won't be easy given the fact he has so much money left on his contract. And so I think if you're trading him, you're going to have to give up a draft pick attached to Conklin for someone to take him. And that's what becomes the hard part of this, because he's going to be in 2024, 30 years old. And with all the injury history he has, it's going to be tough for the Browns with Jack Conklin. I don't know what they're going to do moving forward, but DeJuan Jones needs to be a starter for this team moving forward. And you could make the argument, outside of Joel Petonio, he has been one of the best offensive linemen for the Browns this year. And keep in mind, he's a rookie 4th-round pick. So another great job by Andrew Berry stealing him in the 4th round. But again, now he's got a dilemma to figure out what he does with Jack Conklin in 2024.
Those are problems that are better to have than not have guys that can play the position, without question. Tyler Johnson and I from the Faithful Dogs Podcast Network 216. Going to take one more time out. We'll head back to the voicemail of Truth and Reason when Sports4CLE returns. Stay with us. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program recognizes role model students and teachers from across Ohio. Nominations can now be done completely online. To nominate a deserving teacher or student, go to ohiolottery.com. In the About section, find Partners in Education. There you will find links to the nomination forms.
Students kindergarten through 12th grade can be academic all-stars. Teachers can be honored as a Teacher of the Month. The Ohio Lottery, partners in education, where stars shine.
We continue talking Browns with Tyler Johnson from the Faithful Dogs podcast as well as Network 216. Let's head back to the voicemail of Truth and Reason.
All right, Brownies. All right, Brownies. We finally got ourselves a defensive backfield there. Looks like Ward and Newsome remind us a lot of Clarence Scott and Tom Darden for sure. And JOK hits like Bill Willis. And Garrett is playing like Big Glenn Ford. We got quite a defense. We get that offense straightened out with the quarterback situation. We're going to go somewhere. Thank you.
As always, appreciate all the voicemails. Tyler, those were players of the Browns in the 70s and some in the 60s. I can translate for you. You know what? The defensive backs are being utilized the way I thought they should be. These guys love playing man coverage, and they do it well. And Jim Schwartz is like, all right, I can work with that.
Yeah, and the best thing about this defensive backfield, these are guys that are going to get in your face. Like in man coverage, press man coverage, there is no better group of corners right now than the Browns. MJ Emerson, Denzel Ward, Greg Newsome in the slot. And even when Grant Delpit comes up in the slot, or Juan Thornhill, Rodney McLeod, they're doing the exact same thing. Not only has this defensive line been just absolutely elite for the Browns this year, a big reason, too, is quarterbacks aren't going to have time to throw, but also if they have time to throw, opposing receivers just can't get open right now against this Browns secondary. And I think the secondary, too, like everyone's feeding off one another. You're seeing these guys have fun. You're seeing a swagger to this defense. And it's not just on the defense, it's starting to spread to the rest of the team. And I think that's really infectious. And that's exactly what this Browns team needed. You need guys that are also going to be vocal leaders on that side of the ball. You got Rodney McLeod, who was doing that. Anthony Walker, having him back has been huge this year. Having him healthy. I know he has a concussion right now, but having him healthy, Juan Thornhill bringing him in with Super Bowl experience. But Browns have a lot of talent on that defensive side of the ball, especially in the secondary. And you have to think with some of the quarterbacks that they have coming up, I would like to see this defense. The only thing I want to see more from this defense, just force some more turnovers. This defense forces even more turnovers. This could end up being a historical defense in NFL history. They're already on a path to that. But if you can start adding the turnovers on top of just not giving up any more yards or points per game, this Browns defense really is going to be special. And Jim Schwartz deserves all the credit in the world for getting the best talent out of every single one of these players.
Well, and they have that personality that, the last 2 years I said, what's the personality of the defense? And nobody could answer that question. The other thing is you got to believe the turnovers are coming. And it might be as simple as it's been a factor of, the quarterbacks you played were somewhat elite, minus Kenny Pickett. And then, like you said, they are more middle of the pack coming up. Kevin Stefanski talked about the Colts and what he's seen from Indianapolis.
Unique challenges like every week. Gus Bradley, the defensive coordinator, has been doing it for a very long time, tried and true. They have playmakers at all three levels of the defense. They are about the ball. They are looking to get the ball out. That's what he's constantly done in his career as a coordinator, then they have the guys to do it. Offensively, I think Gardner Minshew's a winner. We've all seen it. He's gone in there and won football games. He's done it for this team. He's a challenge to defend. He can make every throw. He can scramble. And then they have a very good running game, playmakers on the outside, big receivers on the outside, a good offensive line.
And a defense that tries to create turnovers is a concern. Browns are tied with the New England Patriots for the worst turnover differential in the NFL, and somehow they're 3-2.
Yeah, the reason the Browns are 3-2 is just because, once again, that defense is just on another level right now compared to everybody else in the NFL. And that's really the difference between this team being 3-2 and where the Patriots are with one win right now. So, yeah, the defense has been fantastic. And, the biggest thing with the Colts, too, their defense does love to create turnovers. The Colts, too, it looks like Jonathan Taylor is going to end up claiming that running back a starting job again, which you knew he was going to get eventually. But the Colts have a pretty solid offensive line. Zach Moss has been running the ball well for them. They're going to get Jonathan Taylor more involved. Michael Pittman Jr. And Josh Downs are a decent duo on the outside, but I think this Browns defense coming well. It's going to be a good fight. The biggest thing I'm worried about, Dave, is you're coming off that huge win against the 49ers, one of the biggest wins, I would argue, in this franchise's history since they've been back in 99. Don't let this be a letdown game, because this is a game the Browns should win. Even if P.J. Walker is playing at quarterback, the Browns have the talent to win this game. This is a game that you need to go out now and win. Don't have a letdown, and let's start stacking some wins before we get Deshaun Watson back at quarterback.
Yeah, and if this defense is as good as we think they are and as good as they want to be, go out and dominate a team with a lesser quarterback on the road. That's the next box to check. Tyler Johnson, Faithful Dawgs podcast, as well as Network 216. As always, great stuff. Appreciate the time and the insight. Thanks very much, Tyler.
Thank you, Dave. Always my pleasure.
Tyler Johnson, make sure you check him out. Faithful Dawgs Podcast, Network 216. It's going to do it for this edition of Sports for CLE. We'll see you back here tomorrow at 4 o'clock. Have a great night, everybody. See you tomorrow at 4 on Sports for CLE.